Our country has suffered a grievous loss. Last night, Supreme Court Justices Rosenberg and Jensen were assassinated. Mr. Voiles, does the FBI have any suspects?
It's too soon.
I would like to have a report on your security and where it broke down.
You're assuming it broke down.
Mr. President, I'd suggest we meet back here at 5 o'clock this afternoon.
5 o'clock, gentlemen. Thank you.
It's rally around the leader time. Your approval ratings will go through the roof.
And then you look for areas that Jensen and Rosenberg might have in common?
Exactly. He's written 3 majority opinions strongly protective of the environment, and he was near perfect in his support of tax protesters.
Ah, so you think they might have been assassinated by some insatiable tax collector?
Well, as yet I rule no one out.
You have some obscure suspect unknown to the FBI and the CIA and Secret Service and 10,000 police departments?
I had one. Don't laugh. It was ludicrous of me to think that I could solve it. Hubris of the young, huh?
Well, you know, my girlfriend, this girl, she wrote a very interesting essay on who might have ordered the assassinations. It's a little bit left field.
Your girlfriend has a theory?
Here, you ought to take a look at it. You get a kick out of the way her mind works.
Sure.
It's a theory that surfaced in the last 24 hours, and Director Voiles is very intrigued by it.
Now, what's so important?
This is a brief. It's a theory on who's behind the assassinations. And indirectly, it implicates the White House. I think you should ask Kaminsky to have CIA investigate. The second we confirm that this thing is garbage, you can ask Voiles to back off.
Well, how does it implicate the White House? What are the names?
One name.
Someone we both know.
Very
Do you
good.
remember the mashed potato?
No.
You're too young.
No, I know the mashed
Do
potato.
you remember
Give me the
the
keys,
fish back?
please.
The slide?
No, please. Oh my God! Oh my!
I'm Sergeant Rupert, NOPD.
Could I have your name?
Darby Shaw.
Are you sure that the man who called himself Rupert said he was a cop?
Yes.
We don't have a record of a cop named Rupert. The computer, it has no record of the tag numbers of the car you were in. It must be.
Thomas gave you a copy of my theory, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Where is it now?
Oh, well, I read it, and I showed it to some folks at the Bureau, and then they sent it on to Director Voiles.
Are you asking me to ignore a suspect, Mr. President? So you're asking me to back off?
You know, ignore it for a couple of weeks. That's all.
She's watching television.
They've been looking under rocks. She's using credit cards. She'll be dead in 48 hours.
I'll give her 72.
An article by Gray Grantham in tomorrow morning's edition of the Washington Herald maintains that, according to unnamed White House sources, the Middle Eastern terrorist known as Kamel may be one of those who carried out the assassination.
Is this Greg Grantham with the Washington Herald?
Yes, it is. Who's this?
Have you heard of the Pelican Brief? Can you get a list of all the major contributors to the president's last campaign?
Yes. Sure, we can have it tomorrow.
What is going on?
Hello?
Gavin, it's Darby.
With some hairstyles.
At noon tomorrow, take the trolley to a place called Riverwalk.
Riverwalk?
Wear a long sleeve shirt. You remember I told you my friend gave a copy of the brief to a friend at the FBI?
Yes?
A friend from the FBI was killed yesterday. I remembered this piece that Frontline did about a year ago. About the young lawyer who originally filed the suit. They said he'd committed suicide, but his family felt it was foul play. Luckily for the Green Fund's lawsuit, the heart of the new oil reserve is near a natural refuge for waterfowl. Osprey, egrets, pelicans, ducks, cranes, geese. The pelican becomes the hero.
The Pelican Brief.
What about the Pelican Brief? Matisse will sue the pants off them. They try to publish that.
Not if it's true.
You think it's true?
We appoint 2 nature lovers to the court. Good little environmentalists who would kill Matisse in his oil field, etc. Then you call Voiles into your office, and in the presence of the Attorney General, you demand an immediate investigation into Matisse. Ali copies the brief to every reporter in town, and then we hunker down and ride out the storm.
But there has to be some way to keep this information from coming out.
I'm working on it.
What? How?
Mr. President, you don't want to know.
VIP께서는 모르시는 겁니다.
Hi, may I help you? Dorothy Blythe, I have a 5 o'clock appointment with Curtis Morgan.
Could you have a seat for a moment? I'll be right with you.
You say you have an appointment with Curtis Morgan?
Yes, at 5.
When did you make the appointment?
2 weeks ago.
Curtis Morgan is dead.
And I don't believe his death was an accidental murder.
She doesn't want to talk. Now get the hell out of here.
This is Mrs. Morgan. Mr. Grantham, do you still want to see me?
Did you know that your husband called me?
No.
No, stop. Greg, get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Sweetheart, I'm down here in the basement. It's late, it's about 2 in the morning. And it read, Sims, advise client, research is complete. And the bench will sit much softer if the old man is retired. The second retirement is a bit unusual. Jensen of all people. Advise further that the Pelican should arrive here in 4 years, assuming other factors. Then Justices Rosenberg and Jensen were killed.
Are you familiar with the Pelican Brief?
I am.
We're running a story which in summary verifies the facts set forth in that brief.
We also believe that the White House intervened and tried to obstruct the FBI investigation into Mr. Matisse, and we were wondering if there were any comments.
The White House emphatically denies any direct or indirect involvement in any aspect of this investigation.
Feeding frenzy to interview her. Where is Darby Shaw?
I think that also is a question for Darby Shaw, but I know that she's not available to answer questions as long as this feeding frenzy.
That this woman is a figment of your imagination. Those who believe there is no Darby Shaw. In other words, she's just too good to be true.
She almost is.